What do you find you like talking about most on your podcast? Like, what are themes you keep coming back to?
COVID, of course, the one thing that is a big no-no to talk about on YouTube. But that's what I like to talk about because I think that a lot of people are kept in the dark about this issue. And again, I don't love being divisive. So I like to talk about issues where it's like, hey, this is something that's affecting all of us regardless of skin tone, okay?
And regardless of like left or right, at this point, it's like, and that's what I just really would love people to come together on.
Exactly. And so that's my thing. And so I like to talk about issues that are affecting everybody. For example, Joe Biden's leadership, the mandates that are currently across the country, the border issue, and whether you're on the left or the right, the border issue is still affecting you. And one of the things that I do like to bring up as well is, hey, we are all still being locked down in this country. But if you look at what's going on at the border, it's wide open. And I believe that there's 8,000 Haitian migrants currently at the border in Del Rio, Texas.
Haitian?
Right now. They're Haitian.
We don't hear about that at all.
We don't hear about that at all. We don't hear about all of the illegal immigrants. I believe it was 200,000 illegals came over last month.
Whew.
Yeah, so there's quite an influx happening right now. But guess what? We're not monitoring COVID at the border at all. We're just going to keep the average American locked down that's trying to keep their business open. That's who's going to have to be punished for said rising numbers.
It's infuriating. When were you at the border? That was just a couple months ago, right?
It was, I can't even remember the exact month.
Was
but
it
was
April?
A couple months. Yeah, I want to say April. April, May. I went with my good friend.
If we talked about it the last time you were on, but I was like really impressed. I was like, you're down there. You're rolling up your sleeves. You're talking to people.
Well, that's what you got to do. That's why I'm so passionate about these things, because I go and I talk to the people directly affected by this, and that's something that's sorely lacking in the media. Is reporters going and asking residents of McAllen, Texas, of Del Rio, like, hey, what is your daily life like here? What's going on? No one's talking to business owners and watching them cry as they've had to give up their entire life dream and everything they've sacrificed because the government forced them to shut down for 2 years. Nobody is talking to the angel moms whose children were murdered by illegal immigrants who shouldn't have been in this country to begin with. No one's talking to them. Nobody's highlighting them. No one's talking to, the young boy who was suffering now from myocarditis because he got the vaccine and he will deal with heart inflammation now and, probably heart complications for the rest of his life. Nobody is speaking to those people. And so if you actually go and you speak to them, it hits way different than just reading a headline.
I feel like that's where I see you doing the bulk of your interviewing. Like, if you can pull that off and like access these folks, like I don't know, like when you were down there, I'm imagining you going door to door, but like you were at the border, were you able to talk to a lot of locals, or was it just like you were there observing, vans pulling up?
So we were doing that, but then what ended up happening is my contact down there, he actually owns property past the actual border wall. It's not in Mexico, it's just past the border wall. And so I was speaking with him and just listening to these horror stories that he was telling me about children being abandoned, of little babies being thrown in the Rio Grande, of the crime and what's happening on the border right now. It's just horrific stories. And then I got to speak to a woman who's running for Congress in McAllen as well. Her name is Mayr Flores, and she's been a resident down there for her whole life. And she, has told me the stories of other of her constituents, or, people who she's hoping will be her constituents, and then her own story being a local and everything that's been happening, the rising crime rates, how dangerous it is for, children to play on the streets of their city because of all of the people that are coming in that shouldn't be, because there's no protection in the border over there for them.
Do you feel like your empathy, like it's clear that you have such empathy for these people? Like, when did that start? Did that kind of start while we were working for Alex Jones?
Definitely, because I would go do Man on the Streets, and that's what a lot of people don't know, and I think we did talk about this a little bit on your last show, is I would go do Man on the Streets, and I would go to anti-Trump protests to go ask them why they hated Trump, because they could have had the opportunity to change my mind, but it ended up becoming a lot more right-wing and pro-Trump because I went and talked to them.
You turned people.
No. They turned me to a right-winger because I would go talk to liberals,
okay,
and they couldn't tell me why they hated Trump. They couldn't tell me why they hated Republicans or right-wingers. And so in my own brain, the wheels started turning, and I was like, why would I want to be a part of the side that doesn't even know what they're advocating for? Like, what's going on in this country? And so that's what really made me more right wing. And then I actually did start empathizing with a lot of liberals to begin with, because I realized that they have been lied to so much and manipulated so much that they're out in the street protesting Donald Trump at 3 p.m. in Texas in 90-degree heat, and they don't even know why they're out there. Like,
sweating burns calories.
I know. I'm like, ew, I would never protest someone willingly in the hot sun if I didn't know why I hated them.